Our first question is from a listener named Mark, and he says, I'm a very active person and drink multiple gallons of water every day, yet still feel thirsty and dehydrated throughout the day. Do you have any advice?
Mark, great question. Is this Mark with a C or a K?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like when you meet someone with Sarah, is there an H or not an H to
Yeah.
it? It's the stuff you need to know before you give the
Of
answer.
course. I forget that Mark can be spelled with no
Yeah.
K, just
Because
to
if you have
see.
a C or a K, then the recommendation's different based off of your name. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
my gosh. No, it's not. No, it's not.
So, a couple different ways to go with this. That is not the answer. But what the answer would be is I want to dive into more of what are you hydrating with?
Mm.
And I'm not assuming, in any case, I'm not assuming anything, but I have worked with people that they go, I am hydrating throughout the day. I start my morning with coffee, then I have tea, and then I have a small thing of soda at lunchtime, and then I have soda again at bedtime, and then a coffee like right before bed. And I'm like, all of those dehydrate you.
Mm-hmm.
But they go, well, there's water in it.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I'm hydrating. And that's really not the case. So I want to know, what are the sources that you're using to hydrate? Is it water sources, or is it water with all these different additives that are mixed into it? What's your caffeine intake? What's your salt intake? How much, like food wise, what are you putting into your system? Because that can either dehydrate or rehydrate. I know when I feel really dehydrated, I'll eat a cucumber, and the
Mm.
cucumber has a ton of water in it, and that helps me to feel a little bit more hydrated. There'll be times that I hydrate too much, but I don't have enough salt in my body. Salt likes to keep water. And so if you don't, if you have too much of it, your body won't get rid of the water. And if you don't have enough, you'll kind of keep peeing throughout
Mm.
it. So, if you're feeling like you're dehydrated and you're hydrating, you can tell by the color of your urine if you're hydrated or dehydrated. It doesn't need to be clear like water, but it should be this lighter color, like
Mm-hmm.
close to clear. I can't help but think of dodgeball. Why do you drink your own urine? Because it's sterile and I like the taste. Don't take that as a recommendation either. You don't need to drink your urine, but
Yeah.
the color of your urine will let you know if you are truly hydrated or not hydrated. The clearer that liquid is, the more that you are hydrated. And you can just, as you're peeing, just take a quick glance at,
Mm-hmm.
at the stream or the toilet water, and that will inform you on that. If it's more of a darker color, like more of a yellow or like just a darker yellow, that's signifying you're not getting enough hydration.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would add into that is looking at like what is Mark's activity level, how much is he sweating, what is he doing throughout the day, that he may feel like he's getting enough, but because of his activity level, he may need much more.
Mm-hmm.
These athletes that go on summer weekend type tournaments and they're playing 5 games a week and they're playing down south where it's like 98 to 105 degrees, and you wake up and you're sweating, and you get on the field and you're sweating even more, and then by the end of the day you're still sweating. Like, they may need more replacements of hydration than someone that doesn't have that activity level.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Can I ask a follow-up question? Because I'm
Yeah.
just curious. So for Mark, say he works out regularly and drinks like just water throughout the day, but a lot of the water,
Mm-hmm.
but still feels dehydrated. I guess two questions. One, can you feel dehydrated but not actually be dehydrated? And then two, is using like liquid IV or Gatorade or something like that a good option, or should you just continue to stick with water and drink more water? Or I feel like you mentioned salt, so should he start eating more pretzels in his
Yeah.
diet? Like those are the things that I thought quickly.
Great question. I'll try to answer it and then let me know if I don't hit one, because I'm trying to process them all in my head as
Sorry.
they're asked. So first, we'll start with, can you have the perception of feeling like you're dehydrated, but the reality is that you're hydrated? And to be honest, I don't know the full answer behind that, but I can pull from other sources that tends to show us that our subjective perception tends to be inaccurate of objectively what's happening. And this is kind of, again, not hydration, but something different in people when we do their muscle strength testing, because we're using a dynamometer, we're using objective numbers that cannot be debated. And the person will go, wow, I thought my left leg was weaker than my right leg. But then they get the objective test and they go, oh my gosh, the left leg is actually stronger than
Mm.
the right one. So the perception didn't actually match the output. So how would you know this is the case with hydration or dehydration? If you feel like you're dehydrated, but your urine is showing something different objectively, well, that will let us know that the perception is inaccurate from what's actually happening. And if you're still feeling that and want more, then I would say, well, then we probably need some more objective testing, whether that's getting your urine tested, your blood done, systemically. Is there something going on with your kidneys and the filtration? Like, is something happening there that needs to be looked at? So that's a big thing to kind of understand that
Mm-hmm.
if I'm still feeling that way and I'm not sure, I'm uncertain, there's really great tests that you can use that will help you to determine that. So if you did those things and the tests come back negative and your urine is a great color and you're still feeling like you're dehydrated and your salt levels are good, well, then we know that it's perception that you're not feeling hydrated. I will say, kind of going off of this, and then, well, what's leading to that perception? And what leads to that perception is the mouth feeling dry, right? If our mouth feels dry and our throat feels dry, that can lead to the feeling of being dehydrated, when the reality is like, no, our body's very well hydrated, but because of this sensation, our brain's interpreting that as we're dehydrated. When I was recording the audiobook, I learned all these things about hydration and keeping your windpipe and everything kind of lubricated. And some were saying like get vegetable oil and just take a quick shot of that so that like you keep everything loose in there where you're not feeling dehydrated. So I would go in to say, not that Mark is a mouth breather, but mouth breathing Mark might be feeling that happening. That if you're breathing through your mouth, your airways are going to dry. We are meant to breathe through our nose, back out through our nose. We have passageways that increase the humidity of the air to make it more comfortable for our breathing system to happen. So if you're bypassing your nasal passage and breathing through your mouth all day, your mouth is going to start to feel like it's really dry. You're going to feel dehydrated, but the reality is you're hydrated. It's just the breathing is drying you out. And you keep sipping on water, but then you keep mouth breathing because you have to breathe throughout the day.
Of course.
So if you're not doing that and you're not breathing through your nose, there's other consequences that don't want to go down into. So make sure that you're looking at your breathing pattern and then trying to establish yourself to be a nasal breather as much as you can. There's some conditions that allow people to not nose breathe, like deviated septums and things like that. But for the most case, you can nasal breathe. It's just uncomfortable to do at first. The reason that people start mouth breathing is because of a stressful response. Mouth breathing is a learned habit. So people, they get too stressed or something threatens them in their environment. Their brain goes, we need to fight or flight. To fight or flight, we need oxygen. We don't want to wait for it to come in through our nasal passage and get warmed and then go down into our lungs. Let's get a quick gasp of air in and then go from there. So if you're very stressed, you're not having good coping and you're mouth breathing, that can give you the feeling of like you're being dehydrated. I think I answered them all, but I'm not sure. Anything else?
Well, I think the other one was like, do they need to supplement with like liquid IV Gatorade or anything like that?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So these supplemental
great
drinks.
Answer. I have a bunch of follow-up questions, but for the sake of the podcast, I will not be asking them.
So these other drinks that you can put in, I get it. Like my main liquid that I'm drinking is water. It gets boring. It gets so boring. So I like having limoncello, like a sparkling water with a little bit of lemon in it. I like having different flavorings of water. I like tap water. I like warm water. So I try to switch it up to get different types of water because it does get pretty boring. There does get to a point where I'm like, I'm sick of water. I just need something else. And then when we start looking at these something else's, Gatorade Zero, it is a trash drink. It is not good to be putting into your body. They market it as Gatorade Zero because there's zero sugar in it, which is a good thing. But then when you look at the additives and the chemicals that they create synthetically to put into that, it's terrible.
Bad news bears.
It's bad news bears. And I saw this the other day, but you can make your own homemade Gatorade. Use water, you boil ginger, you put in a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and then you squeeze lemons into it. And if you want to put a little tiny bit of sugar or honey for taste, probably would go with the honey, more natural, raw honey. And it will give you the taste of Gatorade, but it doesn't have all the negative additives into it. Liquid IV, kind of same thing. If you're in a pinch and you need something to change the taste so that you're getting more of a volume in, it's okay, but it's really not the best thing to
And
be
neither
put
of them
into
are
your
going to
body.
like hydrate you better.
Not really.
Not really.
The only reason they would hydrate you better is because they allow you to drink a higher volume of it because you're not as bored of it. So like liquid IV, the lemon one, you put that in, you can slug 16 ounces. If you saw some, you can put it in, drink another 16 ounces. It gives your taste buds a party. So then you're like more willing to drink more of it because of that. But in of itself, it's not actually hydrating you more from that thing that's put into it.
Okay.
With the exception of being if there's like you're really low on salt and you just have water and you sprinkle some salt into it, then that may help hydrate you because you're not losing as much water.
Okay.
But then if you have too much salt, it's hanging on to too much water.
Right.
So there's moderation,
a balance in that.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, great question. I personally have a bunch of follow-up questions, but for the sake of the podcast, we'll have to move on. But thanks, Dylan.
Thank you, Mark. And we will not call you mouth breather, Mark. It just was flowing and fit well. I don't think that you're a mouth breather, but just something that came up.